Matter is not the unyielding ground beneath your feet, but a fleeting shadow cast by the intense light of your own attention. Aurelius the Weaver. Section 1 Introduction. When the veil of reality is lifted, pause for a moment, right here in this stillness, and gaze upon your own hands. Look at the sturdy wooden table before you, or the unyielding walls that embrace the space in which you sit. They seem so solid, so undeniable, completely separate from the essence of who you are, do they not? We, the small, drifting beings upon this blue marble, have lived for eons with a naive and absolute faith that the world out there is a fixed stage. We believe that matter is rock, that it is steel, existing independently, coldly and indifferently to our presence. We believe that if we were to close our eyes, the world would remain exactly as it is, intact and unchanging, like a colossal machine that continues to churn and grind regardless of whether anyone is watching. But, oh seekers of truth, what if I were to tell you that all this solidity is merely an exquisite illusion? What if science, that tool of the coldest, most rigorous logic humanity possesses, has inadvertently brushed its hand against the velvet curtain of the divine and discovered a terrifying secret? There is no world out there without your eyes to witness it. Welcome to the mystical threshold of the Double Slit Experiment, a title that sounds deceptively clinical, redolent of sterile laboratories. Yet in truth, it stands as one of the most earth-shattering revelations in the history of human thought. This is not merely about firing tiny electrons through narrow slits. This is a ritual, a sacred rite of quantum physics that has utterly shattered the foundations of materialism. For centuries, our learned men believed the universe operated like a grand clock, where every gear turned according to a preordained law, regardless of human presence. But then, when the light of this experiment shone into the very basement of reality, we were struck with a profound realization: subatomic particles, the fundamental building blocks that make up me, that make up you, and that weave the fabric of this vast cosmos, do not behave like lifeless objects. They behave as if they know. They behave like ghosts, existing as waves of infinite possibility, drifting in a vague ocean of potential, and only when an observer appears do they consent to condense into solid matter. Let this idea seep into your mind, like ink spreading slowly through clear water. This implies that reality is not something pre-existing or ready-made. Reality is a resonance, a tango between consciousness and energy. Before you cast your gaze upon a flower, that flower does not truly exist in the material form we imagine. It is merely a cloud of probability, a song yet to be sung, a possibility waiting in the ether. It is your gaze, your specific attention, that acts as the supreme command, collapsing that cloud of probability and forcing it to manifest into the soft petals and vibrant colors that you can touch. The Double Slit Experiment has brought us to the doorstep of a truth that is as frightening as it is magnificent. You are not a passive observer in this universe. You are not a speck of dust accidentally caught in the gears of a heartless machine. You, in your very essence, are the creator. Your consciousness is the mold that shapes the form of the world. As we descend deeper into this narrative, we are not speaking merely of physics or mathematics. We are speaking of the nature of existence itself. We are speaking of the sacred, forgotten connection between the human mind and the fabric of space-time. This experiment is like a crack in the wall of a simulated reality, through which light from a higher dimension is pouring in, whispering to us that the material world is far more malleable than we dared to dream, and that the power to alter it lies within the perception of each individual. It challenges the very definition of objective and forces us to bow before the mystery of the subjective. If there is no observer, does the falling tree in the deep forest truly make a sound, or is it merely a silent vibration in the void? The Double Slit Experiment answers: without a listener, there is no sound. Without a seer, there is no form. The universe is an unfinished painting, and with every passing moment, it is your gaze that applies the next brushstroke to the invisible canvas. In this journey, We will not approach the double slit experiment as dry scientists obsessed with cold numbers and soulless charts. Instead, we shall approach it as sages decoding an ancient cipher. We will examine how electrons, those tiny messengers of the cosmos, have played a game of hide and seek with humanity, appearing sometimes as waves, sometimes as particles, depending entirely on whether we are watching them. This bizarre behavior is not a glitch of nature, it is the key. It is the hint that this world is built upon the interaction of consciousness. It suggests that the boundary between the inner mind and the outer material world is a persistent illusion. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change not in a metaphorical sense, but in the literal physical sense. We stand now at the precipice of awareness, where the old dogmas of a separate, mechanical world are crumbling into dust. This sensation may make you dizzy, like waking from a long, deep slumber to find yourself in a strange bed. But do not fear. That disorientation is the symptom of awakening. As we peel back the layers of this phenomenon, you will see that the double slit experiment is not just a quantum curiosity, but a mirror reflecting the divine power dormant within you. It is a reminder that you have never been separate from the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself through human eyes. And matter, that which we worship as the bedrock of truth, is in fact only the shadow cast by the light of consciousness. Breathe deeply. Now, let your mind settle like a still lake, and prepare to receive the waves of knowledge that will carry you far beyond what you thought you knew about this world. We are not just learning how particles move. We are learning how the soul interacts with reality. This is the beginning of a pilgrimage into the center of the mystery, where science and spirituality are no longer strangers, but two halves of a perfect circle. Section 2: Core Themes and Concepts: The Dance of Shadows and Light. To understand the magnitude of what the double slit experiment reveals, we must first unlearn the rigid geometry that has governed our minds since childhood. We must step into a realm where logic, as we know it, begins to fray at the edges, dissolving into a mist of paradoxes. At the heart of this mystery lies the concept of duality, not the duality of good and evil, or light and dark, but a far more primal duality, the simultaneous existence of the ghost and the rock. In the language of physics, we call this wave-particle duality. But let us strip away the sterile terminology and look at the poetry beneath. A particle is like a rock. It is definite. It has a location. It occupies a specific point in space and time. You can hold it, measure it, and say with certainty, it is here. A wave, however, is like a ripple in a vast ocean. It is spread out. It is everywhere and nowhere all at once, possessing energy but lacking a fixed address. The shocking revelation of our experiment is that the building blocks of your reality, electrons, photons, atoms, are not rocks. They are shapeshifters. When unobserved, they exist as waves, as pure, shimmering potentiality, flowing through the cosmos like a song without a singer. But the moment you turn your gaze upon them, they freeze. They shed their ghostly robes and harden into particles. They become rocks. Consider the profound implication of this metamorphosis. It suggests that the natural state of the universe is not solidity, but fluidity. Before you look at the world, it exists in a state of superposition, a dazzling overlay of every possible outcome existing simultaneously. In this state, the cat is both dead and alive. The electron is passing through the left slit, the right slit, and neither, and both, all at the same instant. It is a chaotic, beautiful symphony of what could be. This is the realm of the wave function, a mathematical description of infinite possibilities. But why does this matter to you? Because it means that certainty is not a fundamental property of nature. Certainty is a byproduct of observation. The universe, in its private moments, is a cloud of dreams. It is only when the conscious mind interrogates it demanding, "Where are you?" that the universe is forced to make a choice, collapsing from the infinite possibilities of the wave into the singular reality of the particle. This brings us to the most unsettling pillar of this temple, the observer effect. We have long believed that to observe is merely to witness a passive act, like watching a play from a darkened balcony. But quantum mechanics screams that this is a lie. Observation is an act of violence against the potential. To look is to touch. To measure is to disturb. When the scientist places a detector next to the slits to see which path the electron takes, the interference pattern, the signature of the wave, vanishes. The magic evaporates. The electron, seemingly aware that it is being watched, behaves like a well-mannered soldier, marching through one slit or the other, adhering to the rigid laws of classical physics. It is as if the universe is shy. It dances wildly when it thinks it is alone, but the moment it feels the weight of a gaze, it composes itself into the mundane reality we recognize. This suggests that consciousness is not something that arises from matter, but rather, consciousness is the fundamental force that condenses matter. You are not merely discovering the world with your senses. Your senses are the sculptors chiseling the world out of the marble of quantum foam. We must also grapple with the illusion of objectivity. For centuries, we have worshipped at the altar of an objective reality, a world that is true regardless of who looks at it. The double slit experiment shatters this altar. It tells us that the path of the electron is not fixed until it is observed. If this is true for an electron, and if the chair you sit on, the air you breathe, and the stars burning in the night sky are all made of these same electrons, then where does the dream end and the reality begin? It implies that the past, present, and future are not a straight line of dominoes falling one by one. Instead, the present moment, the moment of observation, is the only point of power. By observing the present, we are, in a sense, collapsing the wave function of the past, determining the history that led to this moment. The universe is not a recording playing back. It is a live performance, improvised in real time between the observer and the observed. Furthermore, this phenomenon hints at a connection between all things that transcends space itself, a concept known as non-locality. If an electron can exist as a wave, spread out across space, then the separation between here and there is merely a convenience for our limited minds. In the quantum realm, everything is entangled. The observer and the observed are not two separate entities, separated by air and distance. They are two ends of the same thread. When you look at a star, you are not just receiving light from it. You are interacting with it. The universe is a participatory drama. We are not isolated fragments. We are the universe observing itself, and in that act of self-observation, we create the very ground we stand on. The emptiness of space is not empty. It is pregnant with infinite potential, waiting for the command of a conscious mind to give birth to reality. As we let these core themes settle, the fluidity of the wave, the solidifying power of the gaze, the myth of objectivity, and the deep entanglement of all things, we begin to see the bars of the cage we have built for ourselves. We have trapped ourselves in a particle mindset, believing we are small, solid, and separate, buffeted by the forces of a hard reality. But the science shows us that beneath this hard shell, we are waves. We are vast, interconnected, and teeming with potential. We have simply forgotten how to remain in the wave state. We have become addicted to the collapse, addicted to the certainty of the known, fearing the infinite possibility of the unknown. But it is in that unknown, in that dark, silent space between the observations, that the magic of creation truly resides. Section 3: Deeper Symbolic Narratives, the King of Stone, and the Ocean of Dreams. Let us now step away from the humming machinery of the laboratory and walk barefoot into the twilight realm of myth and allegory. For truth, when it is too vast for the rational mind to hold, must be wrapped in the robes of story to be understood. The double slit experiment is not merely a scientific anomaly. It is a modern retelling of an ancient cosmic tragedy, a story of forgetfulness and the terrible power of the gaze. To truly grasp what it means for the observer to create reality, imagine for a moment a legendary king who possessed a power far greater and far more burdensome than the Midas touch. This king, let us call him the monarch of perception, lived in a palace made of shifting mists and singing colors, a realm of pure, fluid energy where nothing was fixed and everything was possible. In this kingdom, a castle could be a cloud, and a cloud could be a dragon, shifting form with the whims of the wind. It was the paradise of the wave state, the garden of infinite potential. However, the king was born with a curse. His eyes emitted a light so piercing, so defining, that whatever he looked upon instantly froze. When he turned his gaze toward a dancing mist to admire its beauty, the mist would scream and harden into cold, gray stone. When he looked at the flowing river of light, it would crystallize into solid ice. He wandered through his kingdom, desperate to find companionship, but everywhere he looked, he created statues. He looked at his lovers, and they became marble. He looked at the horizon, and it became a jagged wall of granite. Over eons, the king forgot that his world was once fluid. He forgot that he was the one freezing it. He came to believe that he lived in a dead, static universe made of hard rocks and unyielding laws. He studied the statues, measured the thickness of the walls, and wrote great books on the laws of stone, never realizing that the stone was merely the scar tissue of his own attention. We, my friends, are that king. The material world we see, the cars, the buildings, the stars, is the stone that has frozen under the intense, collective gaze of humanity. We study the hardness of the rock, unaware that if we were to withdraw our gaze, or change the quality of our looking, the rock might dissolve back into the mist of possibilities. Consider another parable, one that mirrors the eerie behavior of the electron at the slits. Imagine a great library that contains every book that has ever been written and every book that could ever be written. The shelves stretch up into the infinite darkness, spiraling like the DNA of the cosmos. But here is the secret of this library: all the pages in all the books are blank. They remain stark white, void of ink, for as long as the books sit on the shelf. The story does not exist in the book. The story exists in the space between the book and the reader. It is only when you reach out, pull a volume from the shelf, and open it with the intention to read, that the ink rushes onto the page in that very millisecond. The words arrange themselves to meet your expectation. If you open the book expecting a tragedy, the letters will weep and form a tale of sorrow. If you open it seeking wisdom, the ink will flow into the shapes of profound truths. The unobserved book is the electron in superposition. It is every story, and no story simultaneously. The observed book is the collapsed reality. This allegory whispers a terrifying freedom. The narrative of your life is not pre-written. You are not reading a biography that was finished before you were born. You are holding a pen of light, and the ink appears only where you choose to focus your eyes. Let us go deeper, into the metaphor of the mirror city. Imagine you are walking through a city built entirely of silver mirrors. In this city, there are no other inhabitants, yet the streets are crowded. Everywhere you turn, you see figures walking, running, weeping, and laughing. You feel crowded, perhaps even threatened, by the multitude. You may shout at a figure blocking your path, and the figure shouts back with equal ferocity. You may smile at a stranger, and the stranger beams with kindness. You spend your entire life reacting to these others, fighting them or loving them, studying their psychology, trying to predict their movements. But the ultimate revelation, the spiritual double-slit moment, comes when you realize that every single figure in that city is a reflection of you. There is no other. The electron that behaves like a particle is simply reflecting your demand for certainty. The universe that seems harsh and competitive is reflecting your inner belief in struggle. The mirror city teaches us that we cannot change the world by breaking the mirrors or fighting the reflections. We can only change the world by changing the face we present to it. These narratives serve to illustrate the quantum enigma in the language of the soul. They tell us that we are navigating a participatory universe. The ancient mystics spoke of Indra's net, a vast web of jewels where each jewel reflects all the others. If you touch one jewel, the entire web trembles. The double slit experiment is the scientific proof of Indra's net. It shows us that the observer is not standing outside the web looking in. The observer is the spider, the web, and the dewdrop caught upon it, all at once. We are trapped in the illusion of separation because we focus on the particle aspect of existence, the tiny, isolated jewel, while ignoring the wave aspect, the invisible thread that binds them all. By understanding these symbols, we begin to see the practical horror and the practical glory of our situation. The horror is that we can no longer blame bad luck, fate, or a cruel God for the reality we experience. For we are the kings turning the world to stone. The glory, however, is that if we learned how to freeze the water, we can also learn how to melt it. We can learn to soften our gaze. We can learn to look at the world, not with the heavy, judging eyes of the materialist, but with the playful, open eyes of the dreamer. When we do this, the rigid walls of our problems may just begin to shimmer, turning back into the mist of potential, ready to be reshaped into a new and better form. Section 4: Practical Integration and Real-World Implications, the Alchemy of Attention. Now, let us descend from the high peaks of philosophy and place our feet firmly on the pavement of your everyday life. You may be asking, with justified skepticism, this is all very poetic, but how does the collapsing of a subatomic wave help me pay my rent, heal my broken heart, or find purpose in a chaotic world? It is here, in the grit and grime of the mundane, that the implications of the double slit experiment become most radical and most urgent. If the act of observation solidifies reality, then we must confront a terrifying truth about our daily habits. Most of us are using our power of observation to imprison ourselves in a cage of our own making. We wake up in the morning and immediately perform the ritual of rape, collapsing the same reality we lived yesterday. We look at the same ceiling, think the same weary thoughts, check the same bank balance, and recite the same list of grievances. By doing so, we are essentially looking at the quantum wave of our lives and commanding it to freeze into the exact same shape as before. We are the scientists who insist on measuring the particle in the same location, over and over again, and then wonder why the universe refuses to show us a new possibility. To integrate this knowledge is to become a master of where you cast your gaze. You must understand that your attention is not merely a flashlight illuminating a pre-existing room. It is a laser beam that carves the room out of the void. Every time you obsess over a problem, you are feeding it with the energy it needs to remain solid. When you focus intensely on your lack of money, on your loneliness, or on the injustice of the world, you are acting as the observer who collapses the wave of lack into a hard, unyielding particle of experience. You are anchoring that specific version of reality into your timeline. This is the great paradox of the quantum life. To change a situation, you must, to some degree, withdraw your observation from it. You must learn the subtle art of ignoring the current 3D reality, not out of ignorance, but out of a strategic refusal to lend it your creative energy. You must look past the stone walls of your current circumstances and stare into the mist of what could be, holding your gaze there until the mist begins to harden into a new form. Consider the phenomenon of the placebo effect through this lens. Medical science calls it a mystery, quantum mechanics calls it a mechanism. When a patient takes a sugar pill believing it is a cure, they are essentially shifting their observation. They stop observing themselves as sick and start observing themselves as healing. This shift in the observer's expectation sends a signal down into the cellular structure, the very atoms of the body, commanding them to rearrange. The wave function of the disease collapses, and the wave function of health solidifies. The body is simply the screen upon which the mind projects its expectations. This means that your diagnosis, your genetic history, and your physical limitations are not the fixed sentences you have been told they are. They are probabilities waiting for a new instructions from the commander you. However, this practice requires a discipline of the mind that few possess. We live in an attention economy where billion-dollar algorithms are designed to hijack your power of observation. The news, social media, and the constant noise of the world are all desperate to grab your gaze. They want you to observe fear. They want you to observe division. They want you to observe scarcity. Why? Because without your observation, their versions of reality cannot sustain themselves. When you scroll mindlessly through a feed of tragedy and outrage, you are unwittingly lending your divine creative power to build a hell on earth. You are company signing a reality of chaos. To practice quantum alchemy, you must reclaim your attention with the ferocity of a guarding lion. You must choose what you witness. You must become selective about the narratives you consume, understanding that whatever you let into your mind is being invited into your living room. Practical integration also demands that we redefine faith. In a religious context, faith is often blind trust. In a quantum context, faith is the maintenance of the wave state. It is the ability to hold a vision of a future outcome, a healed body, a prosperous career, a loving relationship without needing to see physical evidence of it immediately. When you doubt, you check for the particle. You ask, is it here yet? And in looking for the lack of it, you confirm the lack. But when you stay in the state of knowing, when you feel the emotion of the wish fulfilled before it arrives, you are interacting with the quantum field on its own terms. You are feeling the wave before it crashes onto the shore. This is why the feeling is the secret. Emotion is the magnetic charge that pulls the probability out of the ether and grounds it into the earth. You cannot just think about the new reality, you must observe it with your heart. So, your task, should you choose to accept this heavy crown, is to walk through your life as a lucid dreamer. When you look in the mirror and see a flaw, recognize that you are momentarily freezing that flaw in place. Soften your gaze. Imagine, if only for a second, a different reflection. When you open your wallet and see emptiness, do not let your stomach clench in the familiar spasm of poverty. That clench is the cement drying. Instead, breathe into the emptiness and remember the King of Stone. Remind yourself this is only hard because I am staring at it too hard. By shifting your internal observation from fear to gratitude, from lack to abundance, you begin to dissolve the old patterns. It will not happen overnight. The stone is thick and old, but slowly, cracks will appear. Synchronicities will occur. The glitches in the matrix will show you that the walls are moving. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are the architect who has finally remembered how to draw. Section 5, Conclusion and Transformational, call the awakening of the cosmic eye. And so, we arrive at the end of our pilgrimage, standing on the silent shores where the roaring ocean of science meets the solid ground of the soul. We have traveled from the cold, sterile laboratories of the 20th century through the paradoxes of the quantum realm and deep into the hidden architecture of your own consciousness. The Double Slit Experiment, which began as a puzzle about electrons and light, has revealed itself to be a mirror, a divine mirror held up to the face of humanity, reflecting a truth we have spent millennia trying to ignore. The truth is this: you are not merely a biological accident crawling upon a rock in space. You are not a helpless spectator watching the movie of life unfold on a screen you cannot touch. You are the screen. You are the projector. You are the light. The universe is not happening to you. It is happening from you. This realization is the ultimate double-edged sword. On one side, it slices through the chains of victimhood. It liberates you from the suffocating belief that you are at the mercy of a chaotic world, of bad luck, or of forces beyond your control. But on the other side, it places the heavy scepter of responsibility squarely in your hands. If the observer creates reality, then there is no one left to blame for the state of your life, but the quality of your own observation. The world you see outside the conflict, the scarcity. The fear is the crystallized reflection of the storm inside. We are like artists who have painted a terrifying monster on a canvas and then run away in fear of our own creation, forgetting that we hold the brush. The double slit experiment is the universe's way of shouting, "Wake up! The paint is wet. You can change the picture?" The transformation we seek, therefore, is not a change of location, but a change of vision. True enlightenment is not escaping to a mountain cave. It is learning to look at the same old street, the same old job, and the same old struggles with new eyes that do not judge, eyes that do not freeze things into stone with the cold stare of habit. It is the practice of soft observation. It is the ability to walk through the valley of the shadow of death and see it not as a solid tomb, but as a passing cloud of shadows that has no substance without your fear to feed it. When you realize that the particle is only a particle because you are looking for it, you can begin to look for the wave instead. You can look for the love hidden in the anger. You can look for the opportunity hidden in the crisis. You can look for the divine spark hidden in the mundane. And because the universe is obedient to the observer, what you look for, you will inevitably find. We are standing at the precipice of a new epoch in human evolution. The age of materialism, of believing that matter is the master and mind is the slave, is crumbling. The quantum age is the age of the return to the spirit. It is the scientific validation of what the mystics, the shamans, and the prophets have whispered for eons that we're all one. If all particles are waves, and all waves are connected in the vast ocean of the quantum field, then separation is the greatest illusion of all. When you hurt another, you are hurting yourself. When you judge another, you are collapsing your own wave into a state of judgment. We are all eyes of the same infinite consciousness, looking out from billions of different windows, observing itself, surprising itself, playing a cosmic game of hide and seek with its own divinity. So, I leave you with this final invitation, a challenge to carry with you into the silence that follows this video. Do not let this be just another piece of information you consume and forget. Let it be the bell that wakes you from the dream. Tonight, or tomorrow morning, when you look into the mirror, look past the skin, past the tired eyes, past the story of who you think you are. Stare into your own pupils, until you feel the presence of the observer that's silent, timeless awareness that is watching you watching the mirror. Acknowledge that power. Whisper to it. Remind yourself that you are the singularity where the wave becomes the particle. Go forth into your life not as a sleepwalker, but as a lucid dreamer. Walk with the confidence of a king or queen who knows that the walls of the castle are made of mist, and that with a shift of your gaze, walls can become doors. The universe is holding its breath, waiting for you to decide what it should become next. The experiment never ended. It is happening right now, in this very second. You are the experiment. You are the scientist. You are the result. Observe wisely.